It was the lucky draw session at the company's annual meeting. I drew a slip that read, "Take the boss home for the spring festival." The man had an indifferent expression and said, "If you're not satisfied, you can get it cashed out." I was about to say yes when I heard his inner thoughts. So excited. So happy. My wife is going to take me to meet her parents. What should I wear that day? Well, I'll wear the same color as my wife. Is it impolite to call her parents mom and dad when we first meet? This year's annual meeting was different from previous years. There was no so-called wine table culture, nor long-winded speeches. It was because there was a new boss. Henrik took over the family business this year. On the first day he came, the company's general group chat was extremely lively. Can young President Henrik's face be placed at the company entrance as a mascot? Hey! We should call him President Henrik now. President Henrik is not young at all. For the lucky draw at this year's annual meeting, can we draw a chance to have a candlelit dinner with the boss? Actually, I wouldn't mind getting a signed photo of the boss. Seconded. I didn't dare to speak up because I had even bolder thoughts than they did. Looking at his face getting closer and closer. Cough cough. I thought. Bah. I'm getting sidetracked. Henrik sat at our table. With that aura and serious expression. Wang, the supervisor who originally wanted to persuade me to have a drink just for the sake of it, didn't dare to say a word. My colleague Gafrik, with an unchanged expression on her face, was pinching me hard under the table. She asked me with her eyes, "What's going on with the boss? Why is he sitting at our table?" Ask me, having felt why upset, and I don't know either. But looking at such a good-looking face. Well, if he sits, let him sit. Finally, having fulfilled my desire, the lucky draw I'd been looking forward to for a long time arrived. When Afrik got her slip, she almost slapped the table to pieces. She drew a new mobile phone. "What about yours?" Henrik suddenly looked over. His eyes indifferent. As if he was just asking casually. I unfolded the slip in my hand. I froze. Then I looked at it in disbelief several times. "Take the boss home for the spring festival." Afrik read it out for me. Everyone at the table fell silent. I was a bit at a loss. The man had an indifferent expression and said, "If you're not satisfied, you can get it cashed out." Was there such a good thing? How much was the boss of Henrik's family group worth per day? I was going to get rich. I was about to say yes when I heard some noisy thoughts. So excited. So happy. My wife is going to take me to meet her parents. What should I wear that day? Well, I'll wear the same color as my wife. Is it impolite to call her parents mom and dad when we first meet? Me? I was certain that this voice was Henrik's. I thought I had drunk too much. I probed. "Boss. If it's cashed out, how much can I get?" The man pursed his lips and stopped looking at me. He was cold. The next second, I heard his inner thoughts again. Why? Why didn't she choose me? So sad. So heartbroken. I really want to make the Wayne Corporation go bankrupt. I finally got so close to my wife. Woo woo woo. Sigh. I originally thought I could give her the New Year's gift I prepared for a long time that day. It seems I have no chance. I blinked. I was trying hard to digest this shocking thing. To confirm if I was dreaming. I pinched my thigh. It hurt. Then, let out a little sorry. I stared closely at the man's face. She's looking at me. So nervous. Should I sit closer? Is she going to kiss me? Well, although it's a bit sudden, I can reluctantly accept it. Brother. Seriously. I wanted to figure out this strange thing, having fulfilled my obsession. So, just kidding. I'll take you to my home for the spring festival in a few days. I swear. It was definitely not because of that mysterious New Year's gift. Before my voice faded, Henrik turned his face again and said calmly, "Well, I know. He was so proper. Who knew that privately he was thinking, my wife is the best. She looks so cute when she smiles. I want to kiss her." I shyly looked away. Afrik was confused and asked, "Why are you blushing? Are you that drunk?" The annual meeting ended early, and many people didn't have enough fun. So they made an appointment to go to a bar. I was a bit reluctant. Forget it. You guys go. The one who loves to curry favor with Supervisor Wang came over to ask Henrik first. President Henrik, come with us. The man glanced at him infuriately. He didn't say anything, but it seemed as if he had. Supervisor Wang immediately understood and bowed to see him off, saying, I forgot. President Henrik is a man of integrity and is busy with numerous affairs every day. He never goes to such places to waste time. Henrik withdrew his gaze from me and walked out. His steps very slow. Of course. I go to work and get off work on time every day. Work hard to make money. And keep working out and taking care of my skin every day. Just waiting for the day to be favored by my wife. Won't my wife even say goodbye to me? It must be that the clothes I wore today were wrong. She didn't react at all when I took off my coat. I'll wear black tomorrow. I also wanted to slip away. But Efric held me tightly. She whispered in my ear. I'm going to confess to my male god. I don't dare to do it if you're not here. For the sake of my sister's happiness. I really couldn't leave. All right. Let's go together. Henrik, who had already walked to the door, suddenly stopped. No, there are many bad guys in the bar. I have to protect my wife. Supervisor Wang asked him what was wrong. The man had a cold face and said, if you don't lead the way, how do I know which bar to go to? Supervisor Wang was stunned. No wonder he never had the chance to get promoted. He couldn't even guess the boss's thoughts correctly. Efric, in order to sit with her male god, dragged me to play Ruth or Dare. She was the one chosen. She chose Dare and had to drink a cross-arm drink with a opposite-sex person. It was exactly what she wanted. So she made a request to a young guy. Both of them almost wrote their thoughts on their faces. And everything went smoothly. When I was envious, I heard Henrik's inner thoughts. TSK. So annoying. Why can they all kiss? If it weren't for my wife saying she doesn't like guys who confess right away, I would have confessed long ago. The wedding room at home is already decorated. I'll find an excuse to take her to have a look someday. The man was sitting in an inconspicuous corner. There was a glass of plain water beside him. His face clearly said, don't come near me. I walked over and said, President Henrik. He sat up a little straighter. What's the matter? He gave the impression that he didn't want to listen to nonsense. But I clearly heard him thinking in his heart, here she comes. Here she comes. Why is she coming over? Is she going to confess to me? Should I agree? Will I seem too frivolous if I agree? She'll be sad if I reject her. Who would have thought that this cold-faced person had such a talkative mind? Actually, I'm going on blind dates when I go back this time. As soon as I said this, I felt a chill on my back. Was this cold air or murderous intent? I really wasn't lying. My parents had been talking about blind dates for me from the beginning to the end of the year. Just a few days ago, they informed me that they had prepared several blind date partners for me. I thought I'd give Henrik a heads up in advance to avoid any embarrassing situations. The light in Henrik's eyes disappeared. His tone was extremely gentle. But if you listen carefully, there seemed to be a hint of coldness hidden in it. That's quite a coincidence. I can help you take a look. In case you get cheated. It's not good. After all, you're also a member of the company. Don't like them. Woo woo woo. I don't allow it. I'll have to bring a knife in. If any dog man dares to look at her more, I'll stab him. Damn it. I have to hurry up. What if my wife really takes a fancy to them? He really said one thing but thought another. Henrik's mood was visibly bad. Supervisor Wang came again, said a lot of things, and offered a toast. The man accepted everything. When I came back from the restroom, I was suddenly thrown into a full embrace. It was Henrik who was drunk. Most of the people in the private room had left. Supervisor Wang, who was drunk himself, said, Vesper, you're the only one here who hasn't drunk. Why don't you send President Henrik back? Before I could say anything, he ran away without looking back. The man leaning on my shoulder softly called out, Vesper. It seemed he was really drunk because I couldn't hear his inner thoughts. I had been to Henrik's house several times. He lived alone. The door was fingerprint locked. I was supporting the man, wondering which finger of his it was when the half-conscious man held my ring finger and placed it on the fingerprint scanner. The next second, the door opened. I was stunned. Before I could figure it out, a chubby samurai rushed over and knocked Henrik and me down. He was underneath. I don't know where he hit, but he let out a muffled groan. And his face didn't look good. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I tried to get up by supporting the ground. But my hands were in a panic and I pressed the wrong place. The man's expression became even worse. He was so hurt that half of his drunkenness wore off. It's okay. Can you get up first? I was extremely embarrassed. After standing up, I just reached out to help him. The man avoided my hand. His face remained calm. I didn't expose anything just now. Did I? Will my wife find out my little thoughts of coveting her? Will she think I'm a pervert? Wife. Listen to me. I'm not like this usually. I never let opposite sex person touch me. No. I have to maintain my cold persona. Such inner thoughts. When Henrik went to wash his face, I was playing with his dog. The samoyed was well raised, looking like a walking marshmallow ball. It was just a bit stupid. Shake hands. It tilted its head. After hearing this command, it licked my cheek. Sit down. It still licked my face. Was this dog mentally challenged? Henrik took a few tissues to wipe the water off his face. I looked up. Boss. What's the name of your dog? The man stopped in his tracks. His expression a bit unnatural. It doesn't have a name. The white samoyed nuzzled its head into my arms. Acting coquettously. It's really strange that it doesn't have a name. Stinky dog. That's my wife. What are you doing? I mustn't tell my wife that the dog's name is Vesper. She'll definitely call me a pervert. Stinky dog. If you don't come out, I'll cut your dog fared. Well, I almost really believed it. A beautiful hand grabbed the dog by the nape of its neck and easily lifted it into the doghouse. I don't know what kind of threat was used, but the dog whined and lay down. Too obedient to come out. It was getting late. I'll take you home. I reminded him. Boss. You drank alcohol just now. There was a trace of regret in the man's eyes. Oh, sorry. I forgot. However, remember to send me a message when you get home. This is my WeChat. So it was this easy to add the boss's WeChat. I remarked him as President Henrik. Henrik sized Ken slightly. And he said quietly. If there's an emergency. This name might not be easy to find. You'd better change the remark. I thought he was right. I added an A in front and pinned it to the top. The man's lips curved into a small smile. Finally. I've added my wife's WeChat above board. Henrik. God knows I almost pretended to be a chicken farm owner to add my wife's WeChat. Brother. It's not that serious. I was late for work the next day. One reason was that I had insomnia. And the other was that I had a slight cold. I was preoccupied. Do you think I can change the prize to cash now? Afrik thought for a while. Do you remember Xiaoyu from the planning department? Last year. He won a 1-hour one-on-one chat with the manager. Later. He also regretted it and said he wanted to change it to cash. In the end. He was put on paid leave for 365 days. To keep my job, I had to give up the idea. I placed an order for cold medicine and had it delivered to the company. During the lunch break, Henrik's message popped up. Yours? He sent a photo of the takeout. The delivery guy must have sent it to the wrong office. I replied awkwardly. Sorry. President Henrik. I'll come and get it right away. The president's office was very warm. When I entered, Henrik had just taken off his suit jacket. Under the black shirt. His figure was lean yet full of strength. What a nice waist. He really lived up to his reputation as the company's eye-catcher. He slowly rolled up his sleeves. I made it for you, by the way. You don't mind, do you? There was a cup of steaming medicine on the table. I looked terrified. Said thank you. And was about to pick it up and leave. The man said again. Drink it here. It might disturb others if you go out. I sat down nervously. The man opposite was dealing with work. And there was no more communication during the whole process. I fanned it to cool it down specially for my wife to drink. I'm so considerate. She must have caught a cold because of me. I'm really damned. No. For my wife's health. I have to find a way to let her go home and rest. Is it okay to blow up the company? I was so startled that I choked. When I lowered my head to cough, Henrik handed me a tissue. Are you okay? I said thank you, and took it. I looked at him with a complicated expression. The man always maintained a calm expression. Who would have thought that under the mask of being taciturn? He even wanted to blow up his own business. What a big contrast. In the afternoon, all employees got good news. The company gave an early holiday. It was difficult to get a taxi during the rush hour after work. I deliberately took my time to finish the last bit of work in the office. Someone knocked on the door. Aren't you leaving yet? Henrik had his coat draped over his arm. He really looked good in black. I had to admit it. Right away. The man took off his name tag on his chest, walked over, hooked a chair with his foot, and sat down. Okay. I'll wait for you. I typed a wrong character. Froze. And slowly looked at him. Henrik said inferently. We're on the same way. And? Aren't we going to your home for the new year? I want to ask in advance if your family will mind. Mind? I mentioned this in the family group last night. My parents were shocked. My socially awkward dad said reluctantly. Do we have to? Can't we find a more decent way? My socially outgoing mom was already looking at clothes on Taobao. They don't mind. He seemed to let out a sigh of relief. Which was quite obvious. That's great. I've already made appointments with the beautician and hairdresser. We'll go for a full service tonight. I've never been to my wife's home. Is 1 million yuan of betrothal gifts enough? Enough. Enough. It's enough to buy my family of 3. My home is in the neighboring city. There's no direct flight. Only high-speed rail. Because it's the spring festival travel rush. Tickets are hard to come by. But Henrik said I didn't need to worry about the tickets. We set off in the morning. He changed a car to pick me up. As soon as I got in the car, I was stunned by the things piled up inside. The man looked away unnaturally. It was too early. I thought you might not have had breakfast. So I bought some. There were too many things. Looking at the breakfast that almost filled the passenger seat, I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Just then, I heard him thinking to himself. I don't know what my wife likes to eat the most. So I bought everything from a whole street. Will she ask me if I want to eat? It doesn't matter if she doesn't. I'm not really that hungry actually. I swallowed a steamed bun and, understanding his thoughts, handed him a cup of soy milk. Do you want to drink? The man glanced at it, but didn't move. I'm not very convenient. Just as I was about to believe him. Feed me quickly. Hurry. I did it on purpose. I just want my wife to feed me. Only the food my wife feeds is the most delicious. Fortunately, it was winter. So my face didn't turn red easily. But I really couldn't ignore it. When waiting for the traffic light, I acted as an assistant and fed him. Henrik said thank you. Before he could turn his face away, I caught the corners of his mouth curving down. We bought business class tickets for the high-speed rail. I wanted to transfer the money for my ticket to him. The man held down my hand. No need. Consider it as your hard work pay for accompanying me to celebrate the new year. He was roaring in his heart. I touched my wife's hand. So happy. What if I spend some money on my wife? My money is hers anyway. I work so hard just so that one day she can spend money without hesitation. I specially gave my wife an extra share of the year-end bonus from my pocket money. I hope she didn't suspect anything. You're really something. Ever since we got on the high-speed rail, my dad had been asking where we were every hour. Henrik seemed restless. He fidgeted with his tie and looked in the mirror from time to time. President Henrik. You seem very nervous? He froze. Slowly looked at me. And said stubbornly. You're mistaken. If I hadn't seen his rich inner monologue, I would have really believed it. Yes. That's right. I'm nervous. I'm about to meet my father-in-law and mother-in-law. What degree should I keep the curve of my mouth? They said that when you meet your partner's parents for the first time, you should be diligent. Remember to take the initiative to wash the dishes and mop the floor later. It would be even better if you could give their dog a bath. This was getting more and more absurd. I couldn't help it. President Henrik. My family doesn't have a dog. The man's eyes went stiff. Oops. I said too much. I quickly made an excuse. I mean, Mina, it's a pity that my family doesn't have a dog. Otherwise, hadn't wise. It could be friends with your dog. His reaction slowed down. Oh. I was worried whether he believed me or not. But soon I stopped worrying. Because I heard his inner thoughts. You can be friends with a dog just by meeting it once. Why don't you have such thoughts after seeing me every day? In fact, it's all because you don't love me enough. Woo woo. That's over the top, brother. My dad is extremely socially phobic. So it was my mom who came to pick us up at the station. She was wearing a super cool leather jacket. She took off her sunglasses, ignored my hug, and instead went behind me to shake Henrik's hand. Boss Henrik. Nice to meet you. Where have you been making a fortune recently? Henrik was at a loss because of her enthusiasm. He responded blankly. Hello. Fortunately, having fullständig adsäscher. There are 3 rooms at home. Mom had cleaned them in advance. However, the room, which was originally quite spacious, somehow felt much more cramped after Henrik came in. I rubbed my hands and said, President Henrik, I don't know if you can get used to it. If not, I can book a hotel for you. Indeed, it wasn't even as big as the bathroom in his house. The man put down his luggage and said, No need. I'll be fine. He said he wanted to take a bath first. And I left tactfully. Even when I was sitting in the living room, I could still hear his inner thoughts. Of course I can. This is the room where my wife has slept. So happy. What a pity. I brought such nice pajamas but can't wear them. I originally wanted to wear them just for my wife to see. She would definitely like them. Desper. Why are you having a nosebleed? My dad was shocked. I quickly grabbed a tissue to block it, and said in a fluster. I guess I'm having too much internal heat. Damn it. I was influenced by Henrik. But what exactly did the pajamas he brought look like? The dinner was sumptuous. Henrik sat up straight. But from my angle, he was pinching the seam of his trousers so hard that it seemed he could make a Chinese knot. I've seen big scenes. I'm not nervous. Absolutely not. Come on. Henrik. You're the best. I can't lose face in front of my wife. After cheering himself up, the man briefly explained the purpose of this trip. Sorry for the intrusion. Mom and Dad, our whole family was stunned. He was also embarrassed and quickly corrected himself. No. Uncle and Auntie. My mom's smile never stopped. She picked up some food for him and said, Don't be so polite. Henrik. From Boss Henrik to just Henrik. What a quick change. I remembered that Henrik doesn't eat coriander. So I picked the coriander out of his bowl. He doesn't eat this. The man looked at me in surprise. And there was a bit more joy in his eyebrows. My wife actually knows I don't eat coriander. I knew it. She must like me too. Or she wouldn't notice such details. She ate from my bowl. Does this count as a kiss? I almost choked again. What the hell? How old are you this year? Henrik? My mom couldn't stop talking. Henrik obediently put down his chopsticks and replied. I'm 25. He's even younger than me. My mom cheerfully praised. You're really young and promising. How many people are there in your family? My dad is abroad. And my mom runs a flower shop by herself. It's a simple family composition. My mom was smiling so widely that her eyes were almost invisible. She was even more eager to pick up food for him. Oh. What a coincidence. My Vesper also has one dad and one mom. Don't you think this is fate? I was immediately alarmed and quickly stopped her. Mom. Did you put too much salt in this dish? It's a bit salty. I can question her about anything, but not her cooking skills. But I wasn't lying. Since I was a child, my mom has been obsessed with being a master chef, but after all these years, her cooking skills haven't improved. Every year when I come back to eat, I have to prepare enough stomach medicine. My mom soon forgot about matchmaking. But Henrik didn't stop for a moment. He ate up all the dishes on the table, whether they were sweet or spicy. Finally, having fulfilled me, he said with a look of satisfaction, Ante. The food you made is really delicious. I like it very much. This sentence made my mom smile all night. I couldn't help but worry about his stomach. Sure enough, Henrik overate. My dad was hiding in the kitchen washing dishes. Actually, Henrik wanted to do it at first. But he broke 3 bowls in a row. So, my mom was cracking sunflower seeds and said, "Let Vesper accompany you for a walk. The stadium is right next to the community. There are a lot of young people there. Vesper likes to go there when she's free." The man who was about to refuse immediately stood up and said, "Okay." I silently took back my words of refusal. I had a feeling that this trip might not be very pleasant. There were quite a few people playing ball in the stadium. Because of the exercise, many of them were only wearing short-sleeved shirts. Some, who felt hot, even rolled up their sleeves and turned their shirts into vests. They were all students in their teens or 20s. They were full of youth and elegance. "Is it nice?" A resentful voice came from beside me. Oh no. I turned my head abruptly. Unexpectedly, the man was lowering his head, only 5 centimeters away from me. So close. He was really good looking. If I could ignore those eyes full of complaints. The man lowered his eyes and said, "No wonder your mom said you always come here. Miss Vesper." He emphasized the last 3 words a bit. I quickly responded, "Huh? Is the person you like here?" The question came so suddenly. But Henrik was even more nervous than me. Denying quickly. "Which one of them is it? I'll stab him. My wife is hesitating. It seems. Woo woo woo. I guessed right. So sad. So emo. Someone come and beat me up." I was about to deny it when someone called my name. "Vesper." A ball hit Henrik's head squarely. He wasn't prepared and hit the iron net. I was shocked and shouted, "President Henrik." From afar, a teenager in a football jersey ran over. He was indeed a teenager. A little brother who used to live next door to my house. I don't know since when. He even stopped calling me sister. Brixton's attention shifted from me to Henrik. Full of hostility. "You pervert. What do you want to do to her?" I quickly waved my hands and said, "No." He didn't. Henrik's expression was as dark as if he was about to kill someone. He covered his head and looked at him coldly. "Who are you?" The teenager suddenly pulled me over and held my hand in a reverse hand grip, saying, "I'm her boyfriend." At this moment, I seemed to hear something break. Henrik's face darkened. And he stared fixedly at our clasped hands. I looked at one side and then the other and said, No, we're not in that relationship." I didn't know who to explain to. A few days ago, when I just learned that I was going to be set up on blind dates, I complained about it in my WeChat moments. Brixton came to comfort me. "Don't be afraid. I'll drive them away for you then." He was just a teenager and didn't think about the consequences when doing things. I was immediately amused. At that time, he also said, "Then, Wedard, I can cooperate with you and pretend to be your boyfriend. So that those people won't dare to approach you." I just took it as a child's joke. But I didn't expect this guy to be serious. He's still holding her hand. Does someone else's wife smell so bad? Why doesn't he find his own instead of pestering my wife? You'd better not let me catch you alone. The wind is so strong. I can hardly hold back my tears. I quickly pushed Brixton away. For a moment, I didn't know what to say. Henrik seemed calm and said, "Do you really know each other?" Brixton regarded him as one of my blind date partners and showed no fear. "Not only do we know each other, but we also used to be together every day when we were kids. We played house. I was the dad, and Vesper was the mom. We even said that when we grew up, we would." I covered his mouth. "Childish words. Don't take them seriously." Henrik gave a cold laugh. I didn't know if he believed it or not because his inner thoughts were also silent. I couldn't help but worry if I could still keep my job. No one spoke on the way back. I managed to send Brixton away after much persuasion. This kid kept asking me about my relationship with Henrik on the phone. Just as I was about to type boss, the person in front stopped. I wasn't prepared and bumped into him. The phone rolled down the stairs from the 5th floor to the 1st floor. Oh no. It seemed to be broken. I despairingly lay on the railing. my hand still reaching out in midair to grab it symbolically. Henrik, who had caused the trouble, was very guilty and said, "I'll compensate you double. Don't be angry." "Well, okay. President Henrik. This is an old residential building. And the corridor lights are flickering. So it's very dark." I couldn't see the expression on his face clearly. I explained what had happened just now. After I finished speaking, the man didn't say anything for a long time. The next second, my ears were filled with his inner thoughts. She's explaining. She's explaining. If she didn't care about me, why would she explain these? She must like me. Humph. What should I say now? Who can help me? I asked carefully. President Henrik. Does your head still hurt? Do you need to go to the hospital? As soon as I finished speaking, the man immediately covered his head and said in a pitiful voice, "Yeah. It really hurts. I feel a bit dizzy. You can support me." It really sounded serious. I obeyed and reached out to support him. The man leaned weakly on my shoulder, walking with difficulty. "Desper. I'm your boss. Next time in this kind of situation, can you protect me?" "Yes," I said with full confidence. I had to say yes. For the sake of my job. He said, "Oh," in a disbelieving tone and continued, "Actually, I'm not blaming him. He's young and is very protective of his sister. I understand. But you should teach him to be polite to his sister's friends. Otherwise, he won't be able to find a girlfriend in the future." I thought he was right and nodded in agreement. He asked, "If we both fall into the river, who will you save first?" I blurted out, You let out a low sigh. You. The man was pleased and started singing in his heart. It was really ugly. But I'm tolerant. As long as the boss isn't angry, I can keep my job. He's really nice. Suddenly, having so my sigh. A cough. Cough came from a shadowy corner of the corridor. Oh my God. Is there a ghost? I suddenly shook off Henrik's hand and ran up several floors in one breath. My screams filled the corridor. The person hiding in the corner stood up, and my dad raised his hand awkwardly. "It's me. Dad. What are you doing hiding here?" I hadn't recovered from the shock yet. He fidgeted with his hands and said slowly, "I was thinking of going back after you fell asleep." His level of social phobia was beyond words. "What are you two doing here?" A pair of eager eyes looked at us expectantly. I ignored it and said without blinking, "President Henrik is talking to me about work." "Henrik?" my dad said in a very low voice. "But you're too close." I continued to lie. "President Henrik said his back is itchy, and he can't scratch it himself. I'm helping him." "Hendrik." The air was extremely quiet. My dad said he wouldn't disturb us and quickly ran upstairs. After watching him leave, I tried to calm my heartbeat. A cold voice said, "Desper." I looked down carefully. The man was still in the position where I had pushed him to the ground, leaning against the wall, his hand trembling raised. He said weakly, "Give me a hand." I screamed, "Boss." This time, he really needed to be helped. Henrik was angry. But not too much. He said he would tell my mom. That's a disaster. Before entering the door, I suddenly grabbed the man's hand and looked at him pleadingly. "Boss. You can't do this." The man tried hard to suppress the corners of his mouth that couldn't help but turn up. He asked, "Can't do what?" Roar. 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 Wife is acting coquettish to me. I'm just bluffing her. How could I really tell on her? I deliberately threatened her to see if she would care. Humph. Showing a haughty expression, God knows how hard I tried not to expose him. If my mom knows I made your butt hurt, she'll scold me to death. The new year is coming soon. It'll be so embarrassing. The man's eyebrows twitched. And he gritted his teeth. It's the coccyx. Not the butt. Okay. That's not important. Henrik cleared his throat and pretended to be calm. Beg me then. Please. Brother. I didn't hesitate at all. The man quickly shook off my hand, turned his back, and covered his mouth. I couldn't see his expression, but I could hear his thoughts. She called me brother. Calm down. Henrik. Where's your reserve? Don't laugh. My face is burning. So embarrassing. So annoying. I heard all that. Boss. Henrik said he was tripped by a cat, and my mom didn't suspect it. She just told me to remember to take him to the hospital tomorrow. Worried that he might have hurt his bones. My dad buried his head in his meal, occasionally looking up at me, as if he wanted to say something but held back. I got up very early the next day. Henrik was still washing up in the bathroom. There was a knock on the door, and I went to open it. I was hugged tightly by Brixton. Vesper. I'm here to wish you a happy new year in advance. He came with his mom. The teenager was wearing a festive red hoodie today, making him look bright and delicate. A cold gaze came from behind. Henrik spoke inappropriately. Vesper. Let's go. Brixton didn't let go. Where are you going? My other hand was held by someone. It's a secret. Henrik took me away, leaving these two words. I noticed that Henrik's mind was blank when he was angry. So at this moment, I had no idea what he was thinking. President Henrik. Goodness, hadn't fulfilled my obsession. It felt like going back to the first time we met. I asked uneasily. Are you jealous? The man stopped and turned his face. Is it that obvious? Of course it is. I'm not stupid. Do you like me? Henrik's neck turned red all of a sudden. He started stuttering. Well, if you say so, then yes. I listened with a complicated expression as he mumbled to himself. Annoying. Why are you so direct? I wasn't prepared at all. Does she want to be my girlfriend? She must be. Otherwise, why would she ask? I'll call my dad later and ask him to set aside his vacation in advance to prepare for the wedding. I don't know if my wife likes Chinese-style or Western-style weddings. As for the kids, I'll leave them to my mom to take care of. Anyway, she's idle all day. Are you kidding me? You're getting way ahead of yourself. Henrik had almost arranged the rest of his life before he remembered an important question. So, what do you think of me? Now it was my turn to be silent. My impression of Henrik was still that of a good-looking, well-built, and capable boss. But thinking of him as someone I could hold hands with, kiss, or even get married to, it seemed a bit strange. Standing in front of the consulting room, the man was reluctant to leave. I'm going in. Why don't you tell me the answer now? It felt like a life-and-death farewell. I pushed him in. Tell you when you come out. Henrik wasn't seriously injured, but he wasn't supposed to walk much. The man didn't react much, but he seemed to say in my ear. Alas. I originally planned to leave after New Year's Eve. But after hearing what the doctor said, it seems I have to stay for a few more days. How could I not see through his little scheme? I said, half laughing and half crying. If you want to stay, just stay. Who's going to drive you away? The man snorted triumphantly. When we got home, the meal was already prepared. Brixton was eager to help me take my bag and pull out the chair. It seemed that my mom had explained Henrik's identity. Brixton's mom also greeted us warmly. Mr. Henrik, please take a seat. There was an empty seat next to me, which was supposed to be for Brixton, but he had gone to pour water for me at the moment. Henrik took it directly. During the meal, the people across from him were almost staring holes into him. Ms. Brixton, is your son in his senior year of high school this year? Brixton's mom nodded. Yes, he is. No one understood what Henrik was up to. Only I knew that this guy was going to do something bad. He smiled politely. Well, my company has an educational institution. We've hired many foreign professors to teach. It's very helpful for senior high school students. Quite a few students got into Tingshui University and Peking University last year. Since your family has such a good relationship with Vesper, I thought I'd arrange for your son to go there for tutoring. Brixton objected immediately. But it was in vain. Brixton's mom was overjoyed. She pushed the noisy son aside and gratefully held Henrik's hand. Henrik, Auntie really doesn't know how to thank you. This kid doesn't give me much trouble in other aspects, but his studies are a headache. You're welcome, Auntie. But a hint of cunning flashed in the man's eyes. The institution is a bit far from here, and the registration deadline is coming up soon this year. Brixton's mom understood immediately. Okay. Okay. We'll go right now. With that, she dragged Brixton away. Vesper. Vesper. Help me. The teenager's shrill voice disappeared the moment the door closed. The instigator ate his meal calmly. You little brat. Trying to compete with me. When I was scheming. You were still drinking milk. No one is allowed to covet my wife. He started humming in his heart again. Arrogant and smug. Come on. Daroops. Vesper. Have a shrimp. The man's words almost made me drop my bowl. Brother. Keep it down. Fortunately, Hattie fulfilledly. My mom's attention was on whether she had put too much salt in the food. My dad almost licked the plate clean in front of him. Henrik finally got to wash the dishes he had been longing for. My dad was helping him. I was making dumplings in the living room. Just as I turned my gaze back. Are you two still not together yet? I was so startled that the dumpling I was making burst open. I told my mom to keep her voice down. What are you talking about? She widened her eyes. You've been dawdling for so long. Haven't you made any progress at all? How did you tell? Ms. John was a campus beauty when she was young and an expert in love affairs. I don't know how she ended up falling for Mr. Q later. She even called him Mute Gord. She had a proud expression. I noticed something was off when you two came back for the first time. A boss is so busy. How could he have the time to come all the way here with you to celebrate the new year? Is he chasing you? I thought about it. Maybe not. Or are you secretly in love with him and tricked him into coming here? I was amused. I don't have that much charm. She smiled. You never know. Just then, the sound of a plate breaking came from the kitchen. Henrik looked guilty. My socially awkward dad found an excuse for him. Breaking a plate means good luck. There was one more person this New Year's Eve. It was a bit livelier. After eating dumplings, Henrik and I were pushed out to set off fireworks. I knocked on the door. On the verge of tears. It's so cold. At least give me a heat pack. My shoulders felt heavy. Still cold? The man put a fluffy shawl on me. Looking down. I didn't know when he had it in his hand. There was the sound of a neighbor upstairs opening the door. Judging from the sound, it seemed to be the gossipy Aunt Wang in the community. If she saw Henrik and me standing at the door, there would surely be a lot of rumors. I pulled the man and ran downstairs. He said slowly from behind. Vesper. Are you taking me to elope? I turned back and smiled. Then will you come with me? His expression froze. And then he put away his smile. Yes. It had snowed during the day, covering the streets with a layer of white. Many children were setting off firecrackers. And there was constant laughter. Henrik walked beside me. His face showed no emotion. But his heart was already in turmoil. She took my hand on her own initiative. Is she going to confess? Well, actually, I'm also prepared. I regret it. I should have chewed a piece of gum just now. What if we kiss later? I shook my head and laughed. This guy really hadn't changed at all. A group of naughty kids were setting off firecrackers, throwing them right into the crowd. I was lost in thought and didn't notice my feet. Watch out. Henrik pulled me to the side. The firecracker exploded with a loud noise. If someone had been nearby, they would surely have been injured. I was still in shock, leaning against him. Are you okay? I shook my head. Henrik let go of me and walked towards the group of kids. I didn't know what he said, but they were all so scared that they started crying and wanted to find their parents. Wait a minute. Come here and apologize to sister. They obediently walked over one by one, bowed, and said, Sorry, sister. I waved my hand and said it was okay. Henrik's face was serious. An apology isn't enough. You almost scared her to tears just now. How do you comfort someone? Although they were young, they knew what to do. Sister, you're so beautiful. Fairy sister. Don't cry. Mom said crying makes you look ugly. Sister. I wish you and brother have a baby soon. And live a long and happy life together. My face turned red. Henrik let them go. What did you say to them? They're so afraid of you? The man remained expressionless and said seriously. I said I'm an iron beast from heaven. And I specially come to catch kids. Especially those as tender-skinned as them. I smiled. That was indeed something he would do. Vesper. I don't want to wait anymore. He looked at me seriously. A bit nervous. I like you. It was exactly 0 o'clock, and a magnificent fireworks display bloomed in the sky. All around were exclamations. And it was crowded and lively. The firelight reflected on his face. Flickering, having fulfilled my sigh. But it couldn't hide the sincerity and passion in his eyes. Will you be my girlfriend? My hand in my pocket slowly clenched due to nervousness. Before I answer you, I want to ask a question. Go ahead. When did you start liking me? I had been thinking about this for a long time but really couldn't figure it out. I had met Henrik in the company no more than 10 times. And we had barely talked. The man seemed to think of something and became shy. Well, at that time, I had just come to the company. And the toilet in my office was broken. I was a bit embarrassed. So I chose a random floor's toilet during your lunch break. As a result, there was no toilet paper. And I didn't bring my phone. Just when I was in despair, I heard someone washing their hands outside. I shouted for help a few times. And that kind-hearted person really brought me toilet paper. I was stunned, looking at the man's slightly shy expression. Was that kind-hearted person me? Henrik nodded shyly. I heard someone call your name outside. And you answered, so I was sure it was you. I thought you were so nice. So since then, I've started paying attention to you. You're beautiful and kind-hearted. Isn't it normal for me to like you? Oh my God. Before this, I had imagined countless romantic scenes. I never expected that Henrik fell in love with me in the toilet. That saying on the internet is really true. People need care the most when they're vulnerable. Vesper. I'm not a casual person. At that time, I overheard you chatting with your colleague about your ideal type. You said you like men who don't show they like you. Dislike clingy ones. Those who don't cherish themselves. And those who come on to you easily. That's why I've been hesitant to confess. I didn't even dare to say one more word to you. He looked so lost and aggrieved. But feelings can't be controlled. I thought that if I didn't say it soon, you'd be snatched away by someone else. What about you? He stared straight at me, eagerly awaiting my answer. What do you think? The fireworks were still going off. Someone pushed me from behind. Henrik caught me effortlessly. Only when we were in close contact did I realize his hands were very cold. Henrik. This was the first time I called him by his name. He slowed his breathing and pursed his lips. Before meeting the person you love, all those rules are just for daydreaming. They're a way to reject those you're not satisfied with. But after that person appears, do you know what I'll do? The man lowered his eyes to look at me. What will you do? Will you kiss? He gulped. Saying no. Can you teach me? Okay. The man placed his hand on my waist and slightly bent down. His lips were cold. Yet, they were filled with passion. On the way back, Henrik confessed something. The name of that dog is Vesper. The same character as yours. In return, I also confessed something. Actually, I can read minds. So I've known it for a long time. The man froze in place. His face turning as expressionless as stone. Then you. I deliberately leaned close to his ear. You call me wife every day. His face flushed instantly. He stammered, trying to explain. No. I'm not that frivolous. I gently kissed him. But I don't mind. Henrik seemed to wake up from a dream. Smiling broadly. He hugged me tightly. Then tried to read my mind now. What am I thinking? I calmed down and heard this. You're being naughty. He didn't refute. Instead, he buried his head in my shoulder and coquettously said, just one more kiss. Just one more.